in some frames. That's interesting. Close Photoshop. Oh, seems like our performance is good now. Okay. Okay, so today is August 6th. We're gonna do another Sausage Sports Club weekly update. This week I'm gonna talk about mostly hats, also talk a little bit about the trailer I worked on. I'm gonna show that here actually, the like finished version of the trailer. The version without the like platform announcement stuff, which is why I made the trailer. But it's done, and I'm gonna share it on stream. So to start off, like we usually do, the Sausage Sports Club weekly update is the format is I talk about what I did that week and what I learned, and share any useful information that I either picked up or that I was reminded of by the tasks of that week. The reason I like to do this every week, it's threefold. First, I think it's potentially useful for new game developers, either students or maybe people crossing over from like commercial, like AAA game development into indie. They want to see what it's like to do your own stuff and to have all the pressure of like making a game by yourself. I think that's useful. Other obvious reason is like marketing. Like if I don't talk about the game, nobody will know about it, so I gotta do that. And this is a good platform for that because I can show what I'm working on in real time, and the game gets better every week, so it's a fun way. The last reason, which is my selfish reason, is I think it would be cool to look back on in 5 or 10 years or whatever when I'm making other games or whatever I'm doing. I'll have this to look back on and see my progress, and I'll be able to see what my design process was at the time and how that changed over the course of Sausage Sports Club, and whatever I do next, I'll probably keep doing the weekly update thing once I have some semblance of an idea of what the next project's going to be. So yeah, with that, we can just get right into it. Is the weekly update. Welcome, Tim. Hey. Okay, yeah, so this week, pretty much all I did the whole week was finishing up the trailer for PAX, the start of next month. That was, I'm trying to remember like what it was a week ago exactly that I was doing. I think I was done changing the game to record shots. But a few weeks ago I discovered, Tim, that I could put GIFs on top of the screen, and so I just put a couple GIFs on. The placement of that one is to block some secret text about what console I'm developing the game for. It just happens to block that word in that spot, so that's why I put it there. So as I was saying, I've been working on trailer stuff this week. This week was mostly like editing and like putting final touches on the trailer, and doing some cleanup stuff and ESRB rating, and syncing up music properly, and all that stuff. Instead of talking about the little nitty-gritty of video editing, I don't want to go into the minutia of it. I'll just show you the trailer. Let me restart this. Okay. that's it. I'm really excited about how it turned out. It feels like a real game trailer, kind of, which I was excited about. And I had, for a few weeks before making the trailer, I'd had a couple ideas about influences of what the trailer would be. One of them was Pitch Perfect. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie, but I'm going to pull up the direct reference that I used from it. There's this scene in that movie where this might get like copyright hit, but I don't care. Anyway, in this movie, there's a scene where Anna Kendrick's character like auditions to be in the singing competition group, and she does this song where she does this like cup tapping routine and like sings over it. I don't know if you can hear it at all, actually, in chat. Anyway, she does this like cool rhythm tapping thing with this cup, and she's singing on top of it, and it got insanely stuck in my head. Like, okay, well, I'll link it in chat anyway. You can listen to it if you want to. It's Yeah, I'll link it in chat so you can watch it. I guess my audio is not set up for playing a video. It was really quiet on my end too, like I couldn't hear it. But I liked it. Anyway, she's doing this cool thing where she's like tapping a cup, making like this great rhythm, this rhythm beat, and then she's singing on top of it, and it got way stuck in my head, even though I watched the video like 2 years ago. And it was also rekindled by the Quadrilateral Cowboy trailer, which I'm not gonna play, but I'll link because it's gonna be the same thing where you can't hear it. But in that one, that game is like kind of a spy thriller where you program robots and you program alarm systems and stuff, and the way the trailer is cut is it syncs up very tightly to like a metronome playing, and at a few points in the trailer the like beat of the metronome, or the trailer defies your expectation of the beat of the metronome by like putting like a gun shooting in sync with the metronome, or like the player, I don't know, the player like falls onto the ground and it makes like a loud crash or something. I don't remember the exact examples, but it's really cool and it's memorable and it gets stuck in your head in a cool way. So those are the inspirations for that trailer. And Tom, my musician, Tom Duncan, like totally nailed it. He didn't even do like, he didn't even have to do several iterations. It was just or several versions to get the rhythm right. It was just like I told him what I thought and I sent those things and he just like knocked it out and it was awesome. So that was cool. So that was the first part of the week, and then the last like 4 days or something I've been working on hats. I've had on my Trello board, like on my cork board in the real world, a card that says 32 hats, 3 days on it, for like months. Finally, a few days ago, I was like sick of work on the trailer, wanted to do something fun, wanted to do something that would make the game feel like way closer to being done, that wouldn't take very long. I was like, hats, that's the thing. And so tackled this big task, and it has ended up being like kind of a nightmare. Not because the hats are like not good or not turning out well, but just like for a few reasons which I'll explain. I've ended up kind of expanding the scope of what the task initially entailed, and then that like blew out how much time it was going to take, and then not wanting to like push back my schedule, I put this like immense pressure on myself to get it done in the same amount of time I expected to, which hasn't happened. So I've been like I've been basically crunching this week to meet just an impossible deadline that I set for myself. And so I'm like super, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm super tired and like I wouldn't say burnt out, because it has been fun to work on the hats, but I just like I'm burning myself out basically. Probably gonna take a half day tomorrow and just like chill out. We'll see though. So let's talk about why the task became monumental, more monumental than it was. Oh, and thanks B-May for the compliment and welcome. Yeah, so let's talk about the hat stuff. First, I'll just show you the like mass of hats as it stands. So like I said, my initial goal was 32 hats. I think I might have hit 40. If not hitting 40, it's like very close. And so that was like a big part of the reason it took longer than I expected, is that I did more hats than I expected to do, or that I had initially planned for. Okay, is that all of them? That's all of them. These at the back. That crown is my great shame right now. Okay. Let's count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, this is 40. So there's gonna be 60 hats in the game. So why did this end up taking longer than expected? Because I increased the number of hats. I made 25% more hats than I expected. Reason 2 is you can see some of these have skeletons. They're rigged, and that's not something I intended to do, but pretty recently I discovered an asset on the Unity asset store called Dynamic Bone, which, to summarize, lets me make hats way more dynamic and interesting for very little like performance costs in game, only a few milliseconds, or sorry, only a few fractions of a millisecond, and all I have to do is like rig the hat, and often that's like basically nothing. Like for this fruit hat, for example, the skinning on this is just like the hat base is just like completely white, and then each of the fruit pieces is completely white for the joint that it's associated with. And that lets me like do I want to get into this yet? I guess I will. That lets me just like wiggle around each hat or each fruit separately, but it like rigging, compared to like usually how long rigging takes, is basically really quick. Let's fly over the fruit joint, or the fruit hat. There we go. And my editor's like really framey right now. I'm not really sure what's causing that, but it's not, that won't reflect the game's frame rate. Hopefully you can see that. Let's Turn off the dynamic bone. So you can probably, yeah, you can see that right bad. Fruit's just all jiggling separately. And in Maya, it only took a second to do all of that. It took maybe like a minute, 2 minutes to like go through and skin all those different fruit separately. It has a really nice feel to it. Okay. So yeah, doing this rigging, even though it's like not a lot of extra work, it's still extra work, and I have to go over to Unity and like import the rig and set up the dynamic bone on it and hit play and like tweak the settings to get it just right. And that's not, like I say, it's not a ton of time, but when you multiply it by maybe like 15 for how many hats that I did that on, then it becomes extra. And I also, partway through the hat making process, I discovered a useful trick to make hats fit better on different character heads. As you can see, Scout has this like dog snout, muzzle, whatever, which for some human-shaped hats, or head pieces of headgear, this muzzle isn't gonna fit nicely into that. For example, this motorcycle helmet, if I plop this on Scout's mug, surprise, it doesn't fit because he has like a weird mouth. For some of these, I added a bone to like let me tweak the shape of the hat a little bit so it looks like it's more made for the character. And that, similar to the jiggle bone thing, that's just like extra time to do that. So that's a little bit extra. I think that's all for the rigging. Come back to some tips. Let me know if my like audio is weird, like if you can't hear me, or if anything's weird on stream. The last 2 weeks I know this isn't happening now, but I've started with my mic not plugged in, and I've just like talked for like 5 minutes before I realized that my mic wasn't plugged in. Fan's out. Yeah, unfortunately I can't do anything about the fan. I do intend at some point, I meant to do this a long time ago, to like find some kind of I don't know what you call it, but supposedly there's some like audio settings you can download and import into OBS that will like balance your audio somehow so that I can get rid of that fan, but I don't know the details of it. I'm a bad sound guy. Oh yeah, so getting back to the hats, it ended up taking longer because I made 25% more hats. I added this new I've been doing this rigging stuff for various reasons, and I think if I'd only made 32 hats, it still would have taken longer than the time, just because I underestimated how much work it was, just how much it was going to be. But now I'm here, now I have all the hats, like, I have them all modeled out, which is by far the largest time sink of making them. I'll talk about what's next, and then I'll talk about some tips of modeling, I guess. Or no, let me just do the modeling stuff first. So whenever I model a lot, whenever I like make a new character or make a few new characters or make hats or whatever, I always like pick up some new helpful tips of modeling, and this time is no different. This time one thing that became really clear, and I'd known this before, but it became really clear when I was doing this, is that the concept of kit bashing, or using like base meshes, became really important for making new hats. And this is the idea that you take kit bashing is the idea that you take already made like asset pieces of stuff that are made such that they can combine in weird ways, in new interesting ways, which will speed up your process. And I took that idea to hats and said, like, if I'm gonna make like if I'm gonna make a musketeer hat, I already have this like director's hat, which is like pretty much the same deal, but I just need to like tweak it a little bit. Or if I'm gonna make, use the captain's hat on a bunch of stuff. Where is the other? That one. Okay. So if I'm using, so I made this guy, and then I was like, I'm gonna make a pirate hat too. And you can totally see that these are like pretty similar, except for the like base there. But so for the sake of like saving time and effort, instead of like entirely remaking this from scratch, I was like, I'm just gonna take this and like puff out the edges and like pull in the back a little bit, and add a little doohickey at the bottom. Yeah, the fan's turned off. The pub level 3 helmet. I have not. I know what you're talking about though. That'd be funny. Maybe for like a content update or something, I'll do that hat. But for now, I'm super done with hats. Yeah, so that was really important in speeding up the process of making these hats, is being able to like look at the design of a new hat, like something I intended to make, and think like, have I made something like this before? Is there something I can use to like speed up this process? And just do that. The turban is a good example. I made this turban. It took a really long time because I made it from scratch. It's probably like an hour and a half or something, or maybe just an hour. But it still took a really long time. And then I made the fruit hat, and I was like, I want some kind of wrap for your head, but it's not quite as big as a turban. So I started. Let's put it over there. So we started with the turban. I'll show you the wireframes. You can see kind of the reference. You can't see it too much, but you can totally see that the shape is the same. Or you can see the source. So I started with the turban and was like, okay, I want this to be lower poly. I want it to cover less of your head. But the core thing is that I had the mesh, I had the topology, and I just like used it in a new way. Should outsource 1,500 more ads. That'd be cool. I don't think there needs to be hundreds of hats. We'll see though. Maybe people will demand more hats immediately after launch. Says base meshes, mirroring and soft select. This one's gonna be weird to show. If you're not a 3D modeler, this might be intuitive to talk about. But when I'm working on a mesh, let's make a cardboard box. That's pretty simple. I'm making a cardboard box. I don't want to redo all my work on each side of the mesh. So most 3D modeling apps have this idea of symmetry where you can automatically perform the same operations you can perform the same operations that you're doing on one side of the mesh on the other side of the mesh. That's super common. So like here, I'm going to add an edge loop. So I click and you can see on the right side of this box, on the right side of the screen, it's like doing the same dealio. And I'm selecting this face, I do one click, selects face, that side gets it too. Boom. So this was pretty much always on while I was making these hats. Oops. Where I just, oh, I see. Can I not extrude correctly? There we go. There we go. And it's just a huge time saver. It literally like requires you to do half as many clicks and stuff to get the same result. Ooh, that looks bad. Anyway, you get the point. Okay, that's mirroring / symmetry. Soft select is another thing that I might be just dumb, but I assume a lot of people don't know about this because I didn't know about it for a long time. The standard way of working, or the most obvious way of working, is you just like click on a vert and drag it. And you do that 500,000 times, and that's how you like shape a mesh to be what you want. And this is what I did for the first 2 years of modeling shit. Is I would just like manually select every vert, or I would select multiple verts and move them manually, and it would just suck forever. Instead of doing that, you can do this. If you hit B on your keyboard in Maya, you'll enable soft select, and if you hold B and click and drag, so hold B and then click your mouse and drag it, it'll change the size. You can drag multiple things. You can drag a radius surrounding your current selection, which could either be a vert or edge. I don't really know what I'm making here. It's like some frog eyes or something. Yeah, for the first 2 years of modeling, I didn't know that that was a tool that existed, and when I found it, I think I literally like yelled because I was so excited and like both excited and like shocked that I hadn't known about this thing. It usually happens to me once every 6 months or something. In Maya, I'll discover some like insane new thing that I didn't know existed. It will just like change my life. So that's a big one. Something that came up during my rigging process that's relatively new. I had known this before starting these hats, but this is still relatively new to me. Here's a good example. Is using when you're doing skinning of your rig. That's, if you don't know what that is, that's when you paint the weights of each joint. So like for this thing, this is like a neckerchief. Each one of the joints needs to have weight over all the verts in this neckerchief. So if I move this front thing, the front thing should move, and if I move the back thing should move, but the front thing shouldn't move. I don't know if I have it in me to explain it more succinctly than that, but the idea, that's the idea. And when you're painting this, whoops, I don't know how familiar everyone is with Maya, but if I want to paint, let's say I want to paint this spot white, I'll do negative real quick. So if I wanted to like remove all of this, I'm like, oop, I'm wiping, oop, I go over the thing, oh, that didn't get wiped at all. So it's not affecting this. What's happening under the hood is when I click on something and Maya decides where I've clicked, it decides that submesh as like the target, and then I don't, like, my clicks only affect that submesh until I let go and click again. So if I click here, that's my target. If I click on that one, that's my target. And there might be a way to not do that, but I haven't figured it out yet. The solution I found instead is to use a separate mesh as my guide, like a separate single mesh, so I'm not using like multiple submeshes, and to paint onto that what my intention is for the shape. So I intend at the front for there to be like red, or I intend for the front faces of that to be like, to be highly weighted, and for that one, for this back joint, I intend for the back to be highly weighted. And then you can, Maya lets you, when you're weighting, copy skin weights from one mesh to another mesh, even if they're different. And the way that works is I click on my first mesh, which is the cylinder that I fucked up to match this other shape, and then I click on my new shape, and I go to the rigging tab and do copy skin weights. And so I clicked that box, it gave me this. The default, which is what I use, is the surface association, and it's closest point on a surface. So in this context, it's between these two things, it's when we look at, I assume that the way that this works is on the new mesh that we're going to use, we go through every single vert. So we go vert all along the mesh, and for each one we say, okay, we're going to skin this now based on the reference mesh that you're passing in, which is this one, or which is this one. And so we say, for the mesh I'm at right now, what's the closest? We iterate over all the ones in the other mesh, and we say, what's the closest one? That one. What's the weight there? And then we copy the weight. Or maybe we interpolate it based on like the 2 or 3 closest ones. But that's what happens, and as a result, I can get what I intend from the scarf. I can get what I intend, where like the 2 verts behind these submeshes are painted fully white, fully influenced, and then this submesh is fully influenced. So that was a big game changer for me when I realized I could do that. Just saved me a bunch of time from like zooming in really close and like going inside the mesh, and I still have to do that part now, where I have to like zoom in really close on the underside of the mesh so that I can see like the inside verts of this submesh. But I'm not doing that for the whole thing and for all of the weighting. I'm doing it as cleanup to like ensure that my reference rig worked. So that's good. I haven't used this with a character yet. I think it'd be interesting to do that, where I make like or I use like one of these guys and do that for a character, and then clean up the ears and stuff. That'd probably be pretty good. Take a sip of water real quick. So speaking of skin weights, another trick that I learned that I've had in the toolbox for a little bit, but I used it a lot on this set of stuff. So let's do it on the chicken hat. So let's say that I'm gonna not save my changes and then just revert, I guess. Move him back. I'm gonna save. In my other window, I have version control open, and I want to like make sure I back up stuff before I fuck it up, since I'm sure I will fuck it up. Okay, so let's do this. So let's say I have this chicken hat, and I'm like, later on in the process, I notice, oh, there's some verts on the back of the head that are super messed up. And this isn't true, but let's say that's true. Let's say it looks like this, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not right. But I've already skinned it, and it's already messed up. And as you might know, if you just like pull verts after it's skinned, that has potential to just like not behave as you expect. So the safe thing that you need to do is basically unbind your mesh from the rig, change the verts, and then re-rig it, like rebind it. But what you'll know is if you've done this before, that you lose all of your skin weights, and that sucks. So what you can do, which is what I'll do now, is you can duplicate the mesh, and you'll see that the duplicate here is no longer rigged, no longer bound. But we can immediately, I'll move it back. What I usually do for this, when I do this, is I'll make 2 layers. So I'll say backup, chicken, that's off screen, save, and then old chicken, I'll say op chicken for like the one I'm operating on. So there we go, put this guy back on top of him. So first what I'm going to do is, so our op chicken is still rigged. Our backup chicken from duplicating has had his rig messed up. He's no longer rigged. So I'm going to bind him. Sorry, before I do this, I want to give context of what I'm doing. So like I was saying, if I notice like, oh, the chicken has some vert that's weirdly out of place, I need to fix that, but I've already done the rigging. So I need to fix this. The safest way to do that, where you're not gonna like break your mesh by moving verts around on the mesh after it's already been skinned, is you have to unbind, fix the vert, and then rebind it, and hopefully is reskin it the way you want. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate the chicken, save my skinning stuff on a duplicate version of the chicken, push that off to the side, unbind the original and make the change I need, and then rebind it, and then for my other one that I just saved off, I'm going to copy skin weights so that I keep the changes I had before, and that's basically just going to be all I need to do. I won't need to skin it again. Maybe the changes you make, you'll need to like clean up in that area where you change the verts, but that's probably going to be fine. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so you can see the one that's like falling out here at the side is the one that's falling out here at the side is the new one that we just bound. You can see that it's messed up. So we gotta OP, we gotta grab him, grab the second one, skin, copy skin weights. Now we should be good to go. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now why are those offset a little bit? I don't like that. Let's fix that real quick. Okay. Do that one more time. Pretend I got it right first time. So select both. We do copy skin weights. Now our backup chicken is correct. Bam. So I'm gonna unlock it, move it over so you can see what's going on. Okay, so our OP chicken here, I'm gonna unbind him. So you probably saw he like snapped back to origin. That's because that's where his root transform is, and that's what happens when you unbind. So what are we gonna do? I'm gonna just as like a test. This isn't gonna be how the model actually goes. I'm just gonna give him like a big lizard frill on the back. The heck? Is my symmetry on? Yeah. Yeah, it's really doing some weird stuff. There we go. Cool. Okay, so we have our chicken. Let's skin it back on. So again, the idea is that I wanted to make this vert change and then get back the skinning I had before. That's why we're doing this. So it's good. Back up, select the OP, pop my skin weights, hide the backup. So now these legs should correctly bend again. Looks good. Like I mentioned, you gotta go back and clean up the new stuff you changed, because it's not gonna have the same. It's not gonna do the same thing. But yeah, that's the fastest, as far as I know, that's the fastest way and least destructive way to take a mesh that's been skinned and weighted and set up and change its verts without totally redo and then have it save the skinning that you had before without just redoing the skinning. So that's been a useful handy tip. It's been a handy tip. Okay, let's reload the scene. I don't get this gross chicken boy. Cool. Okay, those are all the modeling tips I have for you that I was reminded of making these hats. Oh yeah? Interesting. Let's see what that does. Yeah, let's see what that does if I do that. I'm interested. Keep history. This is the other secret reason that I do these streams, is that people who know more and or different things from me will come in and tell me how to do things better. That looks pretty much what I had. That's good. Good tip. Good tip, good tip. Yeah, wow, nice. That's really good to know. So instead of doing the thing I said, do the thing that CloudX Prime said. And then you don't have to do all that like 2-layer hot swapping stuff. That's cool. Thanks, Cloud. Okay, so that's all the modeling tips I had and the Cloud had. So the next stuff I have to do for all these hats is I have to UV unwrap them individually, and I'm still undecided as to whether I'm going to do like a real a real unwrap so that I can do ambient occlusion. I think that's probably what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it as sloppily as I can so that I don't have to like, so that for something like, it's a good example. For something like the fruit hat, I don't have to like individually unwrap every damn piece of fruit. Although they're pretty good already in there, so that might be fine. Or like this bike helmet, it looks like it will be a pain in my butt. Maybe not. Maybe I can just do the top and bottom. Anyway, I have to do the UVs, and I have to bake ambient occlusion, and then that's my base texture that I paint on top of, which is mostly just painting texture, like painting solid colors for most of these hats, but some of them require a little bit of patterning, like the Davy Crockett hat, which, you know, is like, there's like raccoon stripes along the tail, and it's like furry along the head. I'm trying to think of other stuff that uses patterning. I think pumpkin's probably good with the ambient occlusion. The Elvis hair, I'm gonna need to like, I'm not gonna paint literal hair, but I'm gonna do like strokes that look like hair, and then I need to do some kind of like spec map to show the sheen from like supposed gel that you might have. So that's gonna require like an actually good UV unwrap that I can paint into and have it look reasonable and be reasonably to scale all over the thing. Oh, the fish is gonna probably need a pretty good unwrap, so I can do like a bass, like a real bass texture on him, like not gills, but something. Maybe I'll just hand paint it. Pirate hat, I need to do like a Jolly Roger symbol. I don't know, there's not really a lot of stuff that I need a really good UV unwrap. This one's gonna be weird, this boger, because the pattern's gonna be, I don't know what they call it, not reed. Straw. It's gonna look like this. But this needs to like appropriately tile from top to side, you know. Might not be too bad. I think I'm digging in too much to some of these topics. Point is, I need to do a UV unwrap on all these. Some of them are going to be more complicated than other ones, and I hope I can skimp on some of these, because if not, it's going to be a long next couple of days. Step after that is texturing, which once the UV unwrap is done, it's just like simple to solid color block, maybe get a texture off the internet. And then the other step after that is to go into Unity and do what I did with this one, where I set up the hat. If it has a dynamic bone, I gotta do that. Otherwise, I have to give it a material, and I have to put the texture on. And usually there's at least one or two back and forths between Photoshop and Unity to get the texture right. So that's annoying. Oh yeah, the other step is, let's find the workbench. I've probably shown this a little bit on stream before, but all the characters in the game have like different shapes of head a little bit, enough that the hat placement on them is like pretty significantly different. So Sniff, for example, here has like pretty sloped head, more so than most of the other people. Doesn't have any big ears that block stuff, but he's pretty round. relative to like Allie or Peter or Flip the Frog, Flop the Frog. So point being, like, all the characters have different hat placements, and to optimize that process, I have this tool that I built where I can run through each of the hats, and it will. And so a little bit of context on the prefab of my player, I manually, so for each character type, which is each animal, I have a prefab, and then in the hierarchy there's like their spine, and at the top of their spine there's the head, like, there's the head position, and then I manually like add in all of the different hat types there, and those have a component on them, as you can see on the right here, that specifies what their enumerated hat type is. And then in the game, when I like spawn a character, I have their like player data or whatever that says what hat they're supposed to be wearing, and then I have a cache of all of the hat tags that they have as a child component. And I say turn off all of the other ones and turn on the one that matches this enum. So that's how that works. This tool, as I'm showing you here, lets me just like click next to like go to the next one and zoom in on it, instead of if I wasn't doing it that way, I would have to one click to select it, one click to turn it off, one click on the next one click to turn it on, and then I have to hit F to like zoom over to it, and that's just like, that would be so much work. So instead of doing that, I just click next, and I'm there. I'm ready to position and rotate. And so the reason I'm showing you this is the next step after UVing and texturing all the hats is for all 11 characters that I have made, I have to go through, and for each of them I have to manually position, rotate, scale all 40 of these hats. Luckily there's no, for the ones that have physics, I don't have to set up any weird like physics per character on them, but that's gonna be, 40 times 11 is a lot. 440 to set up 440 hats, which is going to take a bit of time. So that's the next thing, and then I have another tool that like takes screenshots, or not screenshots, but like takes a shot of every hat in the editor and saves it out as a PNG, so that I can use that for like UI icons in the game for like the hat select like menu window pop-up. I have to regenerate those and like make sure and then like clean them up in Photoshop for any of them that aren't like centered or whatever, and then I have to make sure those are imported properly into Unity, and then put them in the right folder so that they can be loaded in for the hat select dynamically. And then I don't have a good process for this, but it's pretty important that I test that all of these are set up correctly, so that if there's 440 of them, I don't want one of them to be in the final game that's like broken. There's gonna be more than 440 total. There's gonna be 13 times 60, so that's 600, 780. Yikes. Is that right? Oh yeah, that's right. That's yikes. So anyway, somehow I'm gonna have to ensure that all of those look correct in the game. I'm gonna have somebody start doing QA next month, and I think I'm probably gonna have them do that. That's a miserable task. Yeah, so once all of those things are done, then all the hats will be in the game. And that's all I had to talk about today on the stream. I'm gonna call it the end of the episode here. Thanks for coming to hang out. I hope that was interesting and useful.